Don't. You get up here. Come on. Please don't do that. Please don't. Please don't. Pond. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on over here. Come on. Come on. Up. Up, up, up. Yeah. Oh, right on the mic cord. Okay. That's a place to land. Well, cool. Exactly what I was afraid of. Pond has deemed it necessary to start off this live by immediately ending it. Maybe that's prophetic. Maybe I should listen to Pond. Alright. We gotta fix this. You gotta... No, don't climb back on... Okay. Hi. Yes, you could lay down at any time. I just want... Hello, Pond. I gotta fix this. God, everything is falling apart immediately. Oh, God. Welcome to the Chaos Nest, where Pond decides what we do. And today she decided that we're just not gonna go live. I don't know. Pond has just decided. Can we lay? Can we lay? You're standing on my thigh, and that is very uncomfortable. You could just lay down on it. You just lay down right here. And also not shove your face in the mic cord. That's how you tanked it last time. Please don't do that. That's a cord. That's a cord. Hi. We're encountering some minor technical difficulties. My cat has decided that maybe not start at 8. Yeah, lay down. There we go, thank you. Okay, cool. Yeah, Pond's in charge. We all just, Pond's our landlord. We pay Pond $900 a month. Isn't that right, Pond? Yeah. Good kitten. Lay down. Nice and calm. Nice and calm. Not knocking over ring lights. Crawling over mic cords. And trying to eat mic cords and USB cables. That's really nice. I really appreciate it when you do that. Well, technical. I thought that said technical casualties, and that was actually more accurate is a casualty. There's a giant eyeball. It's the Eye of Sauron today. Well, now that Pond's interference is out of the way, thank you for the roses. Yeah, okay, well, now I feel like Pond's made a statement, and that maybe, oh god, yeah, it happened right from the get-go, because right as I started the live, she was making a bunch of noise trying to crawl into a cardboard box, and I was like, please don't do that, come here. So I was trying to get her to get up on the couch and lay down, and instead she just jumped directly over the mic cord and just pulled down the entire array up here, and the ring light tanked, everything tanked. Well, thank you. Thank you for the corgi. Uh, say hello to Toby for me. But yeah, just tanked the entire ring light, like literally less than a minute in. And I'm trying to fix it, and then she's crawling all over my lap. And I was like, this is a bad time for this. Toby approves. Some people are having sound issues, some people aren't. I don't know if... I guess that's probably an issue on y'all's end. It says my connection's good. I'm assuming it is. It's not giving me any notification problem that there's problems. Can you still hear me? Mic's plugged in. Mic's... Same settings I'm always on. We're good? Maybe I should restart it? Thank you for the cat paws. I appreciate that. Charge that phone, Denny. Better charge it. Oh, I want to check my Discord now. I want to know what Toby does. Hi, Sarah. That's a misconception, probably, but thank you for the compliment. I think. She's being good now, so I hope that lasts. I start reading, she just tanks the entire thing again. Oh, thank you. What was that? A little heart? I didn't see it. I saw it for a second and then it went away. But she's being a good kitty now. Thank you, Nico. Good to see you. I know you probably gotta go to work at some point. I don't know who's working, who's not, but I know habitually you pop in and say hi, and I appreciate it. For everybody who missed cat interference, I'll make sure to put it up on the re-upload on YouTube. We'll include your little fun game that you just played on me. That'll be fun, won't it, Pond? Pond's always got to have at least one moment per live where she pops in and does something reckless. Don't go. Just don't go. Don't go to work, Ray. Stay home and talk to me about Yee City. No. The light just changed? What just happened? What is happening? What is going on? Is my eyeball... Did you notice that? Anybody else notice that? The remote's right here. I wasn't clicking it, but that was weird. It like pulsed red and the whole background, the lighting went real weird. The audio and visual is really off. Who all is it off for? Is the sound off? Is this thing on? This is working right. Yours is fine. I feel like it, if off for phone users. Okay. It's fine for you. Visual is lagging, but audio is not. 2 on phone. Fine on phone. Okay. I don't know what to do about that. I'm gonna be real honest. I don't... It's really wigging me out that it's pulsing red for a second. I don't have any pulsing going on with the lights tonight, so I don't know what's up with that. That's freaking me out a little bit more than the other stuff because that's not supposed to happen. Audio and visual, it occasionally glitches and messes up, and people get laggy. And all I really care about is if the sound doesn't cut out and what I can fix on this end. But my connection says green on here. The light is not part of it. Light's not part of it. Light's not supposed to do that. Light's supposed to stay exactly like this. I tested this. I test this for several minutes before I go live. It did not do that. Any test run. At all. So I don't know why it's pulsing now. When will it be my turn to be happy? Okay. Why? Sauron. I'm sorry. Do I need to change this to a different color? Quitting. The gods are angry. It's probably from the amount of times I've insulted Nyarlathotep on my channel. If I have not said repeatedly, no. I'm not. It's my hands. They're both on screen. I'm not doing that. But it's like the whole light pulses, and it pulses in my peripheral, so I don't feel like it's just on screen. I didn't set this up any other way. I didn't set. We're gonna play with the lights. Hold on. I'm gonna turn it off. That way it resets. And then I'm gonna turn it back on. And I'm just gonna hit the... Okay, it saved that. It's just on normal red. It's just normal red. I have the remote. I'm not touching it. But I have it. It's just wigging me out. I feel like this live's possessed. It better be what it is. Either that or I'm being haunted. I have had the worst dreams lately. And I feel like it's connected. The book is possessed. The book is possessed. The book just wants to be wet. I don't think it's a problem necessarily. I'm just gonna let it live its best life. It's in the living room now, but I read it a lot today. While I'm reading it, it's dry because I wipe it off, and then when I set it down and like leave for a period of time, like if I come back to it immediately, it's not wet. But if I leave it for a while, and I come back, and the next time I think about it, and I go to pick up the book, and it's damp, and I'm like, are you sweating? What is happening? Is the book sweating? Which I could understand that book if it had anxiety about itself. I would get it. That book gave me anxiety the entire time. I'm like yelling at a blind guy level angry. Like, he's a bad guy. Anyway, whatever. It's fine. Don't want to give away the entire plot of Yee City or anybody who's going to read it. But, yeah, I'm yelling at a blind guy. I feel real bad about that. I'm like, stop. And I'm like, 1, he's not real. 2, he can't hear you. 3, motherfucker blind. He's blind. You can't yell at a blind man who doesn't exist. Stop it. Quit getting mad at fictional blind men. It's fine. It's fine. It'll be fine. I just don't understand. Also, thank you, Ray. I love it. It's my new favorite mug. I'm gonna use it all the time. Oh man, it's my favorite. I got a nice coffee. Okay. Even if it's haunted, I got nice coffee, and that's all I care about. Also, thank you to Diana, which provided. I like these. I do like these. I tried it. I like it. Whoever recommended it, I can't remember. Great. Thank you, Diana, for sending me a bunch of them. And also my favorite ghost. So thank you. This is my secondary beverage for the evening. It's ASMR time. Okay. But I don't know what. I don't know what. Wait. What don't I know? Are you saying I don't know or about someone else? Because I... Oh no, I know all of it. The head and the weird backward mirror closet. I got... I got it. I'm gonna ignore that. I got it. I was there. I did it. Please stop that. No. Yeah, I did. I have a lot of anxiety about book 2. I think I understand why it's damp. It's just got anxiety about itself, and it's got to sweat it out. And you know what? We're all going to be okay. Well, some people are going to be okay. Other people are not going to be okay. Anyway, the point is, I like the book. Am I going to keep reading? Yes. Am I upset? Yes. Yes. Yes, I'm upset. I'm a little bit upset about it. Also, this whole time he could just make a paper doll of himself. You're telling me the entire time he could. I mean, I get like if it takes damage or whatever. He could just make a paper doll of himself the entire time. He rolled like a nat 20 on stealth for like. But also been watching too much Dimension 20. Oh God! I didn't know you were reading it. I'm sorry. Stop talking about things. We have to read a different book. This isn't even about this book, okay? It was just the one I was reading right before I... Well, not like right before. Like an hour ago. Okay, and it's fine. I am not gonna talk about it anymore. I'm glad I didn't say whose head was in them. It's fine. We're gonna read a different book. If you don't know, I read you things. I read you things that are not related to the other things that I was reading that I clearly talked too much about. And we're reading Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, Book 2, The Hollow City, and we're going to talk about that, okay? Exclusively that book and not the other book that is monopolizing my brain right now. So we're going to take a nice little trip. I shouldn't say that. Why did I say that? It's not a nice trip. We're on a bad trip, guys. This is a bad trip. These kids have barely made it out alive. This is a bad trip. They're having a time, and we're getting into the thick of it. And if you thought everything was going to be totally cool once I got to London, I got bad news for you, son. That's only half the book, dog. Okay, look, we're about halfway through, so we got the rest of this half of the book. So everything is not gonna go as smooth as you think it is. And if you thought we were coming up on the end, that was only part one. Okay, this is part two now. We're in the thick of it. We're in it to win it, and things are gonna get a lot more stressful from here on out. So let me just preface that. I shouldn't have said we were gonna have a fun little trip. So I misspoke. I apologize about that. I try to be as transparent with you all as possible. Last week, we had a bit of a diversion. Jasmine stopped by, gave me this cute motherfucker, and he's gonna be emotional support on top of the microphone where you all can't hear. Anyway, no. But yeah, he's a cute little dude, and so we had a bit of a shorter time last time. We only did the one chapter, which was pretty short, and it was pretty much just character development and them talking about their backstories and being all emotional and shit on the train, of all places. I don't know, that's beyond me. Why would you have a personal conversation on a train? But in any case, we are off to London. We escaped a bunch of British soldiers and we're on a train and we're heading to where we need to be, which would be great news if we weren't in the middle of World War II, which, need I remind you, was not a cool trip sort of time. I don't know why I said that. Please forgive me. So we're going to go into the thick of it. Who's ready for this number? Everything is pain. Okay. Prepare for the chaos, guys. All right. Fuck. Part 2. If anyone had been watching as the 8:30 train hissed into the station and ground to a steaming halt, they wouldn't have noticed anything out of the ordinary about it. Not about the conductors or porters who wrestled upon its latches and threw back its doors. Not about the mass of men and women, some in military dress, who streamed out and disappeared into the swarming crowd. Not even about the 8 weary children who filed heavily from one of its first-class cars and stood blinking in the hazy light of the platform, their backs pressed together in a protective circle, dazed by the cathedral of noise and smoke in which they found themselves. On an ordinary day, any group of children as lost and forlorn-looking as these would have been approached by some kindly adult and asked what the matter was, or whether they needed help, or where their parents were. But today, the platform teemed with hundreds of children, all of whom looked lost and forlorn. So no one paid much attention to the little girl with tumbling brown hair and buttoned shoes, or the fact that her shoes did not quite touch the floor. No one noticed the moon-faced boy in the flat cap, or the honeybee that drifted from his mouth, tested the sooty air, then dove back from whence it came. No one's gaze lingered on the boy with dark-ringed eyes, or saw the clay man who peeked from his shirt pocket, only to be pushed down again by the boy's finger. Likewise, the boy who was dressed to the nines in a muddy but finely tailored suit and stove-in top hat, his face drawn and haggard from lack of sleep, for he hadn't allowed himself any in days, so afraid was he of his dreams. No one more than glanced at the big girl in the coat and simple dress who was built like a stack of bricks and had lashed to her back a steamer trunk nearly as large as herself. None who saw her could have guessed how stupendously heavy the trunk was, or what it held, or why a screen of tiny holes had been punched into one side. Overlooked completely was the young man next to her, so wrapped in scarves and a hooded coat that not an inch of his bare skin could be seen, though it was early September and the weather still warm. Then there was the American boy, so ordinary-looking he hardly merited notice, so apparently normal that people's eyes skipped over him, even as he studied them, on tiptoe, neck swiveling, his gaze sweeping across the platform like a sentry's. The girl by his side stood with her hands clasped together, concealing a tendril of flame that curled stubbornly around the nail of her pinky, which happened sometimes when she was upset. She tried shaking her finger as one might to extinguish a match, then blowing on it. When that didn't work, she slipped it into her mouth and let a puff of smoke coil from her nose. No one saw that either. In fact, no one looked closely enough at the children from the first-class car of the 8:30 train to notice anything peculiar about them all, which was just as well. Chapter 8. Emma nudged me. "So? I need another minute," I said. Bronwyn had set down her trunk, and I was standing on it now, head above the crowd, casting my eyes over a shifting sea of faces. The long platform teemed with children. They squirmed like amoebas under a microscope, row upon row receding into a haze of smoke. Hissing black trains loomed up on either side, anxious to swallow them. I could feel my friend's eyes on my back, watching me as I scanned the crowd. I was supposed to know whether, somewhere in that great seething mass, there were monsters who meant to kill us. And I was supposed to know it simply by looking, by assessing some vague feeling in my gut. Usually it was painful and obvious when a hollow was nearby, but in a giant space like this, among hundreds of people, my warning might only be a whisper, the faintest twinge, easy to miss. "Do the whites know we're coming?" Bronwyn asked, talking low for fear she'd be overheard by a normal, or worse yet, a white. They had ears everywhere in the city, or so we'd been led to believe. "We killed every one of them and might have known where we were going," Hugh said proudly. "Or rather, I did." "Which means they'll be looking for us even harder," Millard said. "And they'll want more than the bird now. They'll want revenge." "Which is why we can't stand here much longer," Emma said, tapping me on the leg. "Are you almost finished?" My focus slipped. I lost my place in the crowd, began again. "One more minute," I said. Personally, it wasn't whites that concerned me most, but hollows. I'd killed 2 of them now, and each encounter had nearly been the end of me. My luck, if that's what had been keeping me alive thus far, had to be running out. That's why I was determined never to be surprised by another hollow. I would do everything in my power to sense them from a distance and avoid contact altogether. There was less glory in running away from a fight, sure, but I didn't care about glory. I just wanted to survive. The real danger, then, wasn't the figures on the platform, but the shadows that lay between and beyond them, the darkness at the margins. That's where I focused my attention. It gave me an out-of-body sort of feeling to cast my sense out into a crowd this way, prodding distant corners for traces of danger. It wasn't something I could have done a few days ago. My ability to direct it like a spotlight. This was new. What else, I wondered, was left to discover about myself? "We're okay," I said, stepping down from the trunk. "No hollows." "I could have told you that," grumbled Enoch. "If there had been, they'd have eaten us by now." Emma took me aside. If we're to have a fighting chance here, you've got to be faster. It was like asking someone who just learned to swim to compete in the Olympics. I'm doing my best, I said. Emma nodded. I know you are. She turned to the others and snapped her fingers for attention. Let's head for that phone box, she said, pointing to a tall, red phone booth across the platform, just visible through the surging crowd. Who are we calling? Hugh asked. The peculiar dog said that all of London's loops had been raided and their Imbrans kidnapped, Emma said. But we can't simply take his word for it, can we? You can call a time loop? I said, flabbergasted. On the phone. Millard explained that the Council of Imbrans maintained a phone exchange, though it could be used only within the boundaries of the city. Quite ingenious how it works, given all the time differences, he said. Just because we live in time loops doesn't mean we're stuck in the Stone Age. Emma took my hand and told the others to join hands too. It's crucial we stay together, she said. London is vast, and there's no lost and found here for peculiar children. We waded into the crowd, hands linked, our snaking line slightly parabolic in the middle where Olive buoyed up like an astronaut walking on the moon. You losing weight? Bronwyn asked her. You need heavier shoes, little magpie. I get feathery when I have proper meals, Olive said. Proper meals? We just ate like kings. Not me, said Olive. They didn't have any meat pies. You're awfully picky for a refugee, said Enoch. Anyway, since Horace wasted all our money, the only way we're getting more food is if we steal it, or find a not kidnapped Imbran who will cook us some. We still have money, Horace said defensively, jingling the coins in his pocket. Though not enough for meat pies. We could perhaps afford a jacket potato. If I have another jacket potato, I'll turn into a jacket potato, Olive whined. That's impossible, dear, said Bronwyn. Why, Miss Peregrine can turn into a bird. A boy we were passing turned to stare. Bronwyn shushed Olive angrily. Telling our secrets in front of normals was strictly forbidden. Even if they were so fantastic-sounding, no one would believe them. We shouldered through one last knot of children to arrive at the phone booth. It was only large enough to hold 3, so Emma, Millard, and Horace squeezed inside while the rest of us crowded around the door. Emma worked the phone, Horace fished our last few coins from his pocket, and Millard paged through a chunky phone book that dangled from a cord. Are you kidding? I said, leaning into the booth. There are Imbrans in the phone book. The addresses listed are fakes, said Millard, and the calls won't connect unless you whistle the right passcode. He tore out a listing and handed it to Emma. Give this one a go. Millicent Thrush. Horace fed a coin into the slot, and Emma dialed the number. Then Millard took the phone, whistled a bird call into the receiver, and handed it back to Emma. She listened for a moment, then frowned. It just rings, she said. No one's picking up. No bother, Millard said. That was just one of many. Let me find another. Outside the booth, the crowd that had been flowing around us slowed to a stop, bottlenecking somewhere out of sight. The train platform was reaching capacity. There were normal children on every side of us, chattering to one another, shouting, shoving, and one who stood right next to Olive was crying bitterly. She had pigtails and puffy red eyes, and she carried a blanket in one hand and a raggedy cardboard suitcase in the other. Pinned to her blouse was a tag with the words and numbers stenciled in large print. 115-201, London, Sheffield. Olive watched the girl cry until her own eyes began to shimmer with tears. Finally, she couldn't take it any more and asked what the matter was. The girl looked away, pretending not to have heard. Olive didn't take the hint. "What's the matter?" she asked again. "Are you crying because you've been sold?" She pointed to the tag on the girl's blouse. "Was that your price?" The girl tried to scoot away, but was blocked by a wall of people. "I will buy you and set you free," Olive went on. "But I fear we've spent all our money on train tickets and haven't enough even for meat pies, much less a slave. I'm awfully sorry." The girl spun to face Olive. "I'm not for sale," she said, stamping her foot. "Are you certain?" "Yes," the girl shouted, and in a fit of frustration she ripped the tag off her blouse and threw it away. "I just don't want to go and live in the stupid country, that's all." "I didn't want to leave my home either, but we had to," Olive said. "It got smashed by a bomb." The girl's face softened. "Mine did too." She put down her suitcase and held out her hand. "Sorry I got cross. My name is Jessica." "I'm Olive." The two little girls shook hands like gentlemen. "I like your blouse," Olive said. "Thanks," said Jessica. "And I like the what's it on your head." "My tiara." Olive reached up to touch it. "It isn't real silver, though." "That's okay. It's pretty." Olive smiled as wide as I'd ever seen her smile, and then a loud whistle blew, and a booming voice crackled over a loudspeaker. "All children onto the trains," it said. "Nice and orderly now." The crowd began to flow around us again. Here and there, adults herded the children along, and I heard one say, "Don't worry, you'll see your mummies and daddies again soon." That's when I realized why there were so many children here. They were being evacuated. Of all the many hundreds of kids in the train station this morning, my friends and I were the only ones arriving. The rest were leaving, being shuttled out of the city for their own safety. And from the look of their winter coats and overstuffed cases some of them carried, maybe for a long time. "I have to go," Jessica said, and Olive had hardly begun to say goodbye when our new friend was borne away by the crowd toward a waiting train. Just that quickly, Olive made and lost the only normal friend she'd ever had. Jessica looked back as she was boarding. Her grim expression seemed to say, "What will become of me?" We watched her go and wondered the same about ourselves. Here's a picture. Here's your picture of all the kids and Jessica. Inside the phone box, Emma scowled at the receiver. "No one's answering," she said. "All the numbers just ring and ring." "Last one," said Millard, handing her another ripped-out page. "Cross your fingers." I was focused on Emma as she dialed, but then a commotion broke out behind me, and I turned to see a crimson-faced man waving an umbrella at us. "What are you dallying about for?" he said. "Vacate that phone box and board your train at once." "We just got off one," said Hugh. "We ain't about to get on another." "And what have you done with your tag numbers?" the man shouted, flecks of spittle flying from his lips. "Produce them at once, or by God, I'll have you shipped somewhere a great deal less pleasant than Wales." "Piss off this instant," said Enoch, "or we'll have you shipped straight to hell." The man's face went so purple, I thought he'd burst a blood vessel in his neck. Clearly, he wasn't used to being spoken to this way by children. "I said, get out of that phone box," he roared, and raising the umbrella over his head like an executioner's axe, he brought it down on the cable that stretched between the top of the booth and the wall, snapping it in half with a loud thwack. The phone went dead. Emma looked up from the receiver, boiling with quiet rage. "If he wants to use the phone so badly," she said, "then let's give it to him." As she, Millard, and Horace squeezed out of the booth, Bronwyn grabbed the man's hands and pinned them behind his back. "Stop!" he screamed. "Unhand me!" "Oh, I'll unhand you," said Bronwyn, and then she picked him up, stuffed him head first into the booth, and barred the door shut with his umbrella. The man screamed and banged on the glass, jumping up and down like a fat fly trapped in a bottle. Although it would have been fun to stick around and laugh at him, the man had drawn too much attention, and now adults were converging on us from all across the station. It was time to go. We linked hands and raced off toward the turnstiles, leaving behind us a wake of tripped and flailing normals. A train whistle screeched and was echoed inside Bronwyn's trunk, where Miss Peregrine was being tossed around like laundry in the wash. Too light on her feet to run, Olive clung to Bronwyn's neck, trailing behind her like a half-deflated balloon on a string. Some of the adults were closer to the exit than we were, and rather than running around them, we tried to barrel straight through. This didn't work. The first to intercept us was a big woman who smacked Enoch upside the head with her purse, then tackled him. When Emma tried to pull her off, two men grabbed her by the arms and wrestled her to the floor. I was about to jump in and help her when a third man grabbed my arms. "Someone do something!" Bronwyn cried. We all knew what she meant, but it wasn't clear which of us was free to act. Then a bee whizzed past Enoch's nose and buried its stinger in the haunches of the woman sitting astride him, and she squealed and leapt up. "Yes!" Enoch shouted. "More bees!" "They're tired," Hugh shouted back. "They only just got to sleep after saving you last time." But he could see that there was no other way. Emma's arms were pinned. Bronwyn was busy protecting both her trunk and Olive from a trio of angry train conductors, and there were more adults on the way. So Hugh began pounding his chest as if trying to dislodge a piece of stuck food. A moment later, he let out a reverberating belch, and 10 or so bees flew out of his mouth. They did a few circles overhead, then got their bearings and began stinging every adult in sight. The men holding Emma dropped her and fled. The one holding me got stung right on the tip of his nose, and he hollered and flapped his arms as if possessed by demons. Soon all the adults were running, trying to defend themselves from tiny stinging attackers with spastic dance moves, to the delight of all the children still on the platform, who laughed and cheered and threw their arms in the air in imitation of their ridiculous elders. With everyone thus distracted, we picked ourselves up, bolted for the turnstiles, and ran out into a bustling London afternoon. We became lost in the chaos of the streets. It felt like we'd been plunged into a jar of stirred liquid, racing with particles. Gentlemen, ladies, laborers, soldiers, street kids, and beggars, all rushing purposefully in every direction, weaving around tiny, sputtering cars, and cart vendors crying their wares, and buskers blowing horns, and buses blowing horns, and shuddering to stops to spill more people onto the teeming sidewalks. Containing all this was a canyon of column-fronted buildings that stretched to vanishing down a street half in shadow. The afternoon sun, low and muted, reduced by the smokes of London to a murky glow, a lantern winking through fog. Dizzy from it, I half closed my eyes and let Emma pull me along with my free hand. I reached into my pocket to touch the cold glass of my phone. I found this strangely calming. My phone was a useless relic of the future, but an object which retained some power, nevertheless. that of a long, thin filament connecting this baffling world to the sane and recognizable one I'd once belonged to. A thing that said to me as I touched it, "You are here, and this is real, and you are not dreaming, and you are still you." And somehow that made everything around me vibrate a little less quickly. Enoch had spent his formative years in London and claimed to still know its streets, so he led. We stuck mostly to alleys and back lanes, which made the city seem at first like a maze of gray walls and gutter pipes, its grandness revealed in glimpses as we dashed across wide boulevards and back to the safety of shadows. We made a game of it, laughing, racing one another between alleys. Horace pretended to trip over a curb, then bounced up nimbly and bowed like a dancer, tipping his hat. We laughed like mad, strangely giddy, half in disbelief that we'd made it this far. Across the water, through the woods, past snarling hollows and death squads of whites, all the way to London. We put a good long way between us and the train station, and then stopped in an alley by some trash cans to catch our breath. Bronwyn set down her trunk and lifted Miss Peregrine out, and she wobbled drunkenly across the cobblestones. Horace and Millard broke out laughing. "What's so funny?" said Bronwyn. "It ain't Miss P's fault she's dizzy." Horace swept his arms out grandly. "Welcome to beautiful London," he said. "It's ever so much grander than you described it, Enoch. And, oh, did you describe it? For 75 years. London, 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 the greatest city on earth." Millard picked up a trash can lid. "London, the finest refuse available anywhere." Horace doffed his hat. "London, where even the rats wear top hats." "Oh, I didn't go on about it that much," Enoch said. "You did," said Olive. "Well, that's not how they do things in London, you'd say. Or in London, the food is much finer." "Obviously, we're not on a grand tour of the city right now," Enoch said defensively. "Would you rather walk through alleys or be spotted by whites?" Horace ignored him. "London, where every day's a holiday. For the trash man." He broke down laughing, and his laughter was infectious. Soon nearly all of us were giggling, even Enoch. "I suppose I did glamorize it a bit," he admitted. "I don't see what's so amusing about London," Olive said with a frown. "It's dirty and smelly and full of cruel, nasty people who make children cry, and I hate it." She scrunched her face into a scowl and added, "And I'm becoming quite peckish," which made us all laugh harder. "Those people in the station were nasty," said Millard, "but they got what they deserved. I'll never forget that man's face when Bronwyn stuffed him into a phone box." "Or that horrible woman when she got stung in the bum by a bee," said Enoch. "I'd pay money to see that again." I glanced at Hugh, expecting him to chime in, but his back was to us, his shoulders trembling. "Hugh?" I said. "You all right?" He shied away. "No one gives a whit," he said. "Don't bother checking on old Hugh. He's just here to save everyone's hindquarters with no word of thanks from anybody." Shamed, we offered him our thanks and apologies. "Sorry, Hugh." "Thanks again, Hugh. You're a man in a pinch, Hugh." He turned to face us. "They were my friends, you know." "We still are," said Olive. "Not you. My bees. They can only sting once, and then it's lights out. The big hive in the sky. And now I've only got Henry left, and he can't fly because he's missing a wing." He put out his hand and slowly opened the fingers, and there in his palm was Henry, waving his only wing at us. "Come on, mate," Hugh whispered to it. "Time to go home." He stuck out his tongue, set the bee upon it, and closed his mouth. Enoch patted him on the shoulder. "I'd bring them back to life for you, but I'm not sure it would work on creatures so small." "Thanks anyway," Hughes said, and then he cleared his throat and wiped his cheeks roughly, as if annoyed at his tears for exposing him. "We'll find you more just as soon as we get Miss P fixed up," said Bronwyn. "Speaking of which," Enoch said to Emma, "did you manage to get through to any Imbrans on that phone?" "Not a one," Emma replied, then sat down on an overturned trash can, her shoulders slumping. "I was really hoping we might catch a bit of good luck for once. But no." "Then it seems the dog was correct," said Horace. "The great loops of London have fallen to our enemies." He bowed his head solemnly. "The worst has come to pass. All our Imbrans have been kidnapped." We all bowed our heads, our giddy mood gone. "In that case," said Enoch, "Millard, you'd better tell us all you know about the punishment loops. If that's where the Imbrans are, we're going to have to stage a rescue." "No," said Millard. "No, no, no." "What do you mean, no?" said Emma. Millard made a strangled noise in his throat and started breathing weirdly. I mean, we can't." He couldn't seem to get the words out. "What's wrong with him?" said Bronwyn. "Mill, what's the matter?" "You'd better explain right now what you mean by no," Emma said threateningly. "Because we'll die, that's why," Millard said, his voice breaking. "But back at the menagerie you made it sound so easy," I said. "Like we could just waltz into a punishment loop." Millard was hyperventilating, hysterical, and it scared me. Bronwyn found a crumpled paper bag and told him to breathe into it. When he'd recovered a bit, he answered. "Getting into one is easy enough," he said, speaking slowly, working to control his breaths. "Getting out again is trickier. Getting out alive, I should say. Punishment loops are everything the dog said, and worse. Rivers of fire, bloodthirsty Vikings, pestilence so thick you can't breathe, and mix into all that, like some devilish bouillabaisse, bird knows how many whites and Hologast." "Well, that's fantastic," said Horace, tossing up his hands. "You might have told us earlier, like back at the menagerie when we were planning all this." "Would it have made any difference, Horace?" He took a few more breaths from the bag. "If I'd made it sound more frightening, would you have chosen to simply let Miss Peregrine's humanity expire?" "Of course not," said Horace. "But you should have told us the truth." Millard let the bag drop. His strength was returning and his conviction with it. "I admit, I somewhat downplayed the punishment loop's dangers, but I never thought we'd actually have to go into them, despite all the irritating dog's doomsaying about the state of London. I was certain we'd find at least one unrated loop here, its Imbran still present and accounted for. And for all we know, we may still. How can we be sure they've all been kidnapped? Have we seen their rated loops with our own eyes? What if the Imbran's phones are simply disconnected?" "All of them?" Enoch scoffed. Even Olive, eternally optimistic Olive, shook her head at that. "Then what do you suggest, Millard?" said Emma. "That we tour London's loops and hope to find someone still at home? And what would you say the odds are that the corrupted who are looking for us would leave all those loops unguarded?" "I think we'd have a better chance of surviving the night if we spent it playing Russian roulette," said Enoch. "All I mean," Millard said, is that we have no proof. What more proof do you want? Said Emma. Pools of blood? A pile of plucked Imbrin feathers? Miss Avocet told us the corrupted assault began here weeks ago. Miss Wren clearly believed that all of London's Imbrins had been kidnapped. Do you know better than Miss Wren and Imbrin herself? And now we're here, and none of the loops are answering their telephones. So please, tell me why going loop to loop would be anything other than a suicidally dangerous waste of time. Wait a minute. That's it, Millard exclaimed. What about Miss Wren? What about her? Said Emma. Don't you remember what the dog told us? Miss Wren came to London a few days ago when she heard that her sister Imbrins had been kidnapped. So? What if she's still here? And she's probably been captured by now, said Enoch. And if she hasn't? Millard's voice was bright with hope. She could help Miss Peregrine, and then we wouldn't have to go to anywhere near the punishment loops. And then how would you suggest we find her? Enoch said shrilly. Shout her name from the rooftops? This isn't Cairnholm. It's a city of millions. Her pigeons, said Millard. Come again. It was Miss Wren's peculiar pigeons who told her where the Imbrins had been taken. If they knew where all the other Imbrins went, then they should know where Miss Wren is too. They belong to her, after all. Ha! Said Enoch. The only thing commoner here than plain-looking middle-aged ladies are flocks of pigeons. And you want to search all of London for one flock in particular? It does seem a bit mad, Emma said. Sorry, Mill, I just don't see how that could work. And it's a lucky thing for you I spent our train ride studying rather than making idle gossip. Someone hand me the tales. Bronwyn fished the book from her trunk and gave it to him. Millard dove right in, flipping pages. There are many answers to be found within, he said, if you only know what to look for. He stopped at a certain page and stabbed the top with his finger. Aha! He said, turning the book to show us what he'd found. The title of the story was The Pigeons of St. Paul's. I'll be blessed, said Bronwyn. Could those be the same pigeons we're talking about? If they're written about in the tales, they're almost certainly peculiar pigeons, said Millard. And how many flocks of peculiar pigeons could there possibly be? Olive clapped her hands and cried, Millard, you're brilliant. Thank you. Yes, I'm aware. Wait, I'm lost, I said. What's St. Paul's? Even I know that, said Olive. The cathedral. And she went to the end of the alley and pointed up at a giant domed roof rising in the distance. It's the largest and most magnificent cathedral in London, said Millard. And if my hunch is correct, it's also the nesting place of Miss Wren's pigeons. Let's hope they're at home, said Emma. And that they've got some good news for us. We've had quite a drought of it lately. Pigeons. Anyway, that's intermission. Taking a break. There's a lot of pictures in the remainder of this chapter. So, time-wise. Isoron's mad today. How am I? Interesting question. That I'm not answering. I am alive. I'm caffeinated, so that's decent. I vote we sacrifice the wet book to the eye. Maybe if I just hold the City Arctic up to the eyeball, it'll be fine. It's not in here. It's in the living room. I would have to physically get up and go retrieve it. And I don't want to do that. I'd have to disconnect the mic, everything. Put this thing on pause. Nah. I'm not doing that. It's good coffee. Okay. No, I have plenty of sage over here. I should sage this room. I didn't think about it. Nothing like this happened before this. I'm going to sage this room before we start Discord Binding of Isaac. I bet the wet book is going to make the Eye of Sauron cry. It's going to be a thing. Oh, it's some coffee Dad gave me. It's like, it tastes like bourbon. And then I put a little bit of lavender in it. And I made like an oat milk foam, poured that in there. Isaac already has crying eyes. Isaac already stay crying. It's not Roaming Goat, it was that other one. I still had some of that left, and I made that. I did find the bookmark in the box. It is an excellent bookmark. I love it. This little wooden sword. I put it on the table over here. I was going to move it over here before the live started. And I didn't do that. Where'd it go? I don't know if I can reach it, actually. I set it too far back on this table. I'm going to fall over. Okay. It's so cute. It's so cool. Ah, it's the cutest little bookmark. Okay. I have the one that Diana gave me in U City, and then I have the Johannes Cabal postcard that I'm using in Hollow City, and then I was gonna put the sword in the cat book. Yeah, it's so cute because right now some trash is in the cat. No, I'm joking. It's not trash. It's everything that I get is repurposed into a bookmark. I was using a $2 bill for a bookmark once, but it's the peculiar thing. But it's like waterlogged. It's in the cat book. I gotta stop taking books in baths. It's so cute, so I was gonna put it in the cat one. So I'm gonna use it, but I'm not reading any of the book at the moment. I just finished the book I was reading. I was reading U City. I'm gonna have to get the third one. I'm so upset. So sad about U City. Okay. I need to know what happens. But it's so cute, and thank you so much, Ray, for my cool bookmark. Yeah, I put it on the table because I was going to move it over here, and then I put it on the table, and then I moved everything else in here, and then I forgot. Will this sit in the mirror? Sit in the mirror. Oh, no, will not sit in the mirror. Do not try that. I will lose a bookmark. I'm going to put it gently inside the front of the cat book. Okay, there we go. It's good that you're heading to see him. I hope everything goes okay and is, like, goes smoothly for your family. I hope you at least get to spend time with him, because that's, well, I mean, I want to be a mortician, and, like, if there's anything that I kind of understand, it's losing a family member you're close to, but that's estranged enough to where it kind of feels weird when you lose a distant family member rather than a close one. especially one that you like, because you sort of pan out in scope. And like after my grandparents died, I remember having this moment. Sorry, we're gonna enter a little depressing mode, but but bear with me here, because I feel like it's important for anybody who's ever had to go through this. You sort of pan out, and like I was just their grandkid, and you realize like I wasn't even born until they were in their 50s. I knew them for about under 20 years. And there was so much of their life, because I'm not even 50 yet. And I think about everything that I went through and everything that I've done. And I'm like, how much of more of life did they experience that I don't even know about? You're never gonna know everything about them. And they were the closest relatives I had, that I considered close to. And there was a moment after they died where I was like, there are parts of them that I'm never gonna know. And there were questions I wish I'd asked, and things I'd wish I'd said more and done more that I didn't get the chance to do. So get the chance to do that while you can. Tell someone you love them today. And that's for everybody. Tell the people you care about that you care about them before you can't anymore. And I think that's something that everybody can take with them, because one day you might not get the chance. And I hope I will handle all of your funeral arrangements when I become a mortician. Okay, sorry. This is a great hoodie. Thank you, Ray, for this awesome hoodie. I still love it. It's great. But I think that the more opportunity you have in life, it's like one person is, I pictured it like a stained glass window. Your feature in this life was just one segment of one pane. And when you pan out, it makes a whole picture, but you're just that one piece. And you're never even going to know what their full pane looks like. It's never going to be a complete picture for you. But you can still appreciate that you make up one part of a whole. And you can still impact that picture as much as if you were not a part of it. So make sure the people that you care about know that you care about them. Spend time with them. Tell them you appreciate them and that you love them. I feel like that wasn't that deep. But anyway, you're in my thoughts. Just know that you and your uncle and your family are, I'm thinking about you. And I hope that everything goes smoothly and that you get that time to sit and be with your family and sit and be with your uncle. And know that you have a support system, a support group that can all come together and recognize the contribution your uncle made on your lives. And anyway, I just hope you get that chance, because a lot of people don't. Death comes for all of us, but we can change how we feel and think and look at it while still experiencing grief. Anyway, just wanted to say that. Depressing time done, but that's all I wanted to say. Grief is something that's very close to me. It's something that stays close even if you don't want it to. And Time heals a bit of it, but it'll always be there. Like that friend you just can't get rid of. Well, hi, thank you. Anyway, I hope if you got something from that, you got something from that. If you didn't, sorry, I bummed you out for a couple minutes. Pond ran off, and she keeps coming back in right next to the ring light. It's making me super nervous. Can you stop that? Pond. Pond. Please don't rub against the ring light, please. You're going to knock it over again. It's going to give me anxiety. Pond is... She keeps jumping down on the ground. I can't get her to stay up here. Pond, you must say hi to your adoring public. Do you... Would you like to recognize that people love and appreciate you? Oh, turn your back. She just turned all the way around and sat down. If that's not a statement, I don't know what it is. How can you not appreciate all these lovely people that want to see you? Her butt is so close to the ring light too. It's right next to the edge of the stand, and I'm like, just don't move. If you want to sit there, sit there. But please don't. Just like, she stretches at her back feet, she knocks the whole thing down. Typical cat behavior. We want attention, we get none. Yeah, that's true. Always. Anytime I want her in my lap, and I'm like, Pond, get up here. And then she's like, no, I'm gonna go scream in the kitchen for a while. And then the second I'm doing something, like reading a crucial bit in a book, she's like, hello, is this my time to... So what were you doing? Nothing important, clearly. It just puts her whole paws on the book and drags it down. She does that frequently. The minute I... Bimo might be a dog. He comes when I call him. Pond does that if you have sour cream and onion or chips or barbecue chips or those like cheddar and sour cream chips. Loves all those. If you open a bag of chips, this cat will be on it. Cat loves chips. No, it's not book time. It's Pond time. That's exactly her attitude. She's like, it's Pond time, baby. Guess what? Mid-chapter, don't even care. Sue is like that with Ranch. Yeah, she is in it to win it with some chips. You open a bag of chips, she is there. Or a can of tuna. But that's because it also smells and, like, it makes the same sound as her wet food. So she's like, that's mine. And she looks astounded if you do not give it to her. She's like, you're eating my food. And I'm like, this isn't pate, this is tuna. I'm making a tuna sandwich. What are you doing? You have to give her the sauce on the bottom of the tuna can or else she'll riot. Alright. Who wants to make the journey back to St. Paul's on these pigeons? I bet you do. Do you... Give her the juice. We do that. I do. I give her the juice. She gets the juice. Rock solid. Okay. You want to hop back up here? Now that I'm reading again? No? Yes? Maybe? No? No? Okay. You know what? I am going to use my sword bookmark for this. Feels more appropriate. I don't know why. It feels more appropriate to have my sword in this book. I'm going to put my sword in this book. Yeah, sword in the book. Get. Okay. As we navigated a labyrinth of narrow streets toward the cathedral, a brooding quiet settled over us. For long stretches, no one spoke, leaving only the tap of our shoes on pavement and the sounds of the city. Airplanes, the ever-present hum of traffic, sirens that warbled and pitch shifted around us. The farther we got from the train station, the more evidence we saw of the bombs that had been raining down on London. Building fronts pocked by shrapnel, shattered windows, streets that glinted with frost of powdered glass. The sky was speckled with puffy silver blimps tethered to the ground by long webs of cable. "Barrage balloons," Emma said when she saw me craning my neck towards one. "The German bombers get caught up in their cables at night and crash." Then we came upon a scene of destruction so bizarre that I had to stop and gape at it. Not out of some morbid voyeurism, but because it was impossible for my brain to process without further study. A bomb crater yawned across the whole width of the street like a monstrous mouth with broken pavement for teeth. At one edge, the blast had sheared away the front wall of a building, but left what was inside mostly intact. It looked like a doll's house, its interior rooms all exposed to the street, the dining room with its table still set for a meal. Family pictures knocked crooked in a hallway but still hanging, a roll of toilet paper unspooled and caught in the breeze, waving in the air like a long white flag. "Did they forget to finish building it?" Olive asked. "No, dummy," said Enoch. "It got hit by a bomb." For a moment, Olive looked as if she might cry, but then her face went hard, and she shook her fist at the sky and yelled, "Nasty Hitler! Stop this horrible war and go right away, all together!" Bronwyn patted her arm. "Shh! He can't hear you, love." "It isn't fair," Olive said. "I'm tired of planes and bombs and war." "We all are," said Enoch. "Even me." Then I heard Horace scream, and I spun around to see him pointing at something in the road. I ran to see what it was, and then I did see, and I stopped, frozen, my brain shouting, "Run away!" but my legs refusing to listen. It was a pyramid of heads. They were blackened and caved mouths agape, eyes boiled shut, melted and pooled together in the gutter like some hydra-headed horror. Then Emma came to see and gasped and turned away. Bronwyn came and started moaning. Hugh gagged and clapped his hands over his eyes. And then finally Enoch, who seemed not in the least disturbed, calmly nudged one of the heads with his shoe and pointed out that they were only mannequins made of wax, having spilled from the display window of a bombed wig shop. We all felt a little ridiculous, but somehow no less horrified, because even though the heads weren't real, they represented something that was, hidden beneath the rubble around us. "Let's go," Emma said. "This place is nothing but a graveyard." We walked on. I tried to keep my eyes to the ground, but there was no shutting out all the ghastly things we passed. A scarred ruin belching smoke. The only fireman dispatched to extinguish it slouched in defeat, blistered and weary, his hose run dry. Yet there he stood watching anyway, as if, lacking water, his job now was to bear witness. A baby in a stroller left alone in the street bawling. Bronwyn slowed, overcome. "Can't we help them somehow?" "It wouldn't make any difference," said Millard. "These people belong to the past, and the past can't be changed." Bronwyn nodded sadly. She'd known it was true, but had needed to hear it said. We were barely here, ineffectual as ghosts. A cloud of ash billowed, blotting out fireman and child. We went on, choking in an eddy of wind-borne wreck dust, powdered concrete blanching our clothes, our faces bone white. Picture time. One more. We hurried past the ruined blocks as quickly as we could, then marveled as the streets returned to life around us. Just a short walk from hell. People were going about their business, striding down sidewalks, living in buildings that still had electricity and windows and walls. Then we rounded a corner and the cathedral's dome revealed itself, proud and imposing, despite patches of fire-blackened stone and a few crumbling arches. Like the spirit of the city itself, it would take more than a few bombs to topple St. Paul's. Our hunt began in a square close to the cathedral where old men on benches were feeding pigeons. At first it was mayhem. We hounded in, grabbing wildly as the pigeons took off. The old men grumbled, and we withdrew to wait for their return. They did, eventually, pigeons not being the smartest animals on the planet, at which point we all took turns wading casually into the flock and trying to catch them by surprise, reaching down to snatch at them. I thought Olive, who was small and quick, or Hugh, with his peculiar connection to another sort of winged creature, might have some luck, but both were humiliated. Millard didn't fare any better, and they couldn't even see him. By the time my turn came, the pigeons must have been sick of us bothering them, because the moment I strolled into the square, they all burst into flight and took one big, simultaneous cluster bomb crap, which sent me flailing toward a water fountain to wash my whole head. In the end, it was Horace who caught one. He sat down next to the old men, dropping seeds until the birds circled him. Then, leaning slowly forward, he stretched out his arm and, calm as could be, snagged one by its feet. "Got you!" he cried. The bird flapped and tried to get away, but Horace held on tight. Here's a picture. He brought it to us. "How can we tell if it's peculiar?" he said, flipping the bird over to inspect its bottom, as if expecting to find a label there. "Show it to Miss Peregrine," Emma said. "She'll know." So we opened Bronwyn's trunk, shoved the pigeon inside with Miss Peregrine, and slammed down the lid. The pigeon screeched like it was being torn apart. I winced and shouted, "Go easy, Miss P." When Bronwyn opened the trunk again, a poof of pigeon feathers fluttered into the air, but the pigeon itself was nowhere to be seen. "Oh, no! She ate it!" cried Bronwyn. "No, she hasn't," said Emma. "Look beneath her." Miss Peregrine lifted up and stepped aside, and there, underneath her, was the pigeon, alive but dazed. Label your pigeons. Okay. "Well," said Enoch, "is it or isn't it one of Miss Wren's?" Miss Peregrine nudged the bird with her beak, and it flew away. Then she leapt out of the trunk, hobbled into the square, and with one loud squawk scattered the rest of the pigeons. Her message was clear. Not only was Horace's pigeon not peculiar, none of them were. We'd have to keep looking. Miss Peregrine hopped toward the cathedral and flapped her wing impatiently. We caught up to her on the cathedral steps. The building loomed above us, soaring bell towers framing its giant dome. An army of soot-stained angels glared down at us from the marble reliefs. "How are we ever going to search this whole place?" I wondered aloud. "One room at a time," Emma said. A strange noise stopped us at the door. It sounded like a faraway car alarm, the note pitching up and down in long, slow arcs. But there were no car alarms in 1940, of course. It was an air raid siren. Horace cringed. "The Germans are coming!" he cried. "Death from the skies!" "We don't know what it means," Emma said. "Could be a false alarm, or a test." But the streets and the square were emptying fast. The old men were folding up their newspapers and vacating their benches. "They don't seem to think it's a test," Horace said. "Since when are we afraid of a few bombs?" Enoch said. "Quit talking like a Nancy Normal." "Need I remind you?" said Millard. "These are not the sort of bombs we're accustomed to. Unlike the ones that fell on Cairnholm, we don't know where they're going to land." "All the more reason to get what we came for, and quickly," Emma said, and she led us inside. The cathedral's interior was massive. It seemed impossibly even larger than the outside, and though damaged, a few hardy believers knelt there, here and there in silent prayer. The altar was buried under a mountain of debris. Where a bomb had pierced the roof, sunlight fell down in broad beams. A lone soldier sat on a fallen pillar, gazing at the sky through the broken ceiling. Another picture. Cathedral. I'm blocking part of it. I'm not trying to. Promise. Pawn, that's exactly what I was afraid of. Pawn. Pawn. Okay. Just a few inches to the right, please. What is that? We wandered, necks craned, bits of concrete and broken tile crunching beneath our feet. "I don't see anything," Horace complained. "There are enough hiding places here for 10,000 pigeons." "Don't look," Hugh said. "Listen." We stopped, straining to hear the telltale coo of pigeons. But there was only the ceaseless whine of air raid sirens, and below that a series of dull cracks like rolling thunder. I told myself to stay calm, but my heart thrummed like a drumline. Bombs were falling. "We need to go," I said, panic choking me. "There has to be a shelter nearby. Somewhere safe we can hide." "But we're so close," said Bronwyn. "We can't quit now." There was another crack, closer this time, and the others started to get nervous too. "Maybe Jacob's right," said Horace. "Let's find somewhere safe to hide until the bombing's through. We can search more when it's over." "Nowhere is truly safe," said Enoch. "Those bombs can penetrate even a deep shelter." "They can't penetrate a loop," Emma said. "And if there's a tale about this cathedral, there's probably a loop entrance here too." "Perhaps," said Millard. Perhaps. Hand me the book. I shall investigate." Bronwyn opened her trunk and handed Millard the book. "Let me see now," he said, turning its pages until he reached the pigeons of St. Paul's. "Bombs are falling and we're reading stories," I thought. "I have entered the realm of the insane." "Listen closely," Millard said. "If there's a loop entrance nearby, this tale may tell us how to find it. It's a short one, luckily." A bomb fell outside. The floor shook and plaster rained from the ceiling. I clenched my teeth and tried to focus on my breathing. Unfazed, Millard cleared his throat. "The Pigeons of St. Paul's," he began, reading in a big, booming voice. "We know the title already," said Enoch. "Read faster, please," said Bronwyn. "If you don't stop interrupting me, we'll be here all night," said Millard. We'll be here all night. Okay. And then he continued. "Once upon a peculiar time, long before there were towers or steeples or any tall buildings at all in the city of London, there was a flock of pigeons who got it into their minds that they wanted a nice, high place to roost, above the bustle and fracas of human society. They knew just how to build it, too, because pigeons are builders by nature, and much more intelligent than we might give them credit for being. But the people of ancient London weren't interested in constructing tall things, so one night the pigeons snuck into the bedroom of the most industrious human they could find and whispered into his ear the plans for a magnificent tower. In the morning the man awoke in great excitement. He had dreamed, or so he thought, of a magnificent church with a great reaching spire that would rise from the city's tallest hill. A few years later, an enormous cost to the humans, it was built. It was a very towering sort of tower, and had all manner of nooks and crannies inside it where the pigeons could roost, and they were very satisfied with themselves. Then one day Vikings sacked the city and burned the tower to the ground, so the pigeons had to find another architect, whisper in his ear, and wait patiently for a new church tower to be built. This one even grander and taller than the first, and it was built, and it was very grand and very tall. And then it burned too. Things went on in this fashion for hundreds of years, the towers burning and the pigeons whispering plans for still grander and taller towers to successive generations of nocturnally inspired architects. Though these architects never realized the debt they owed the birds, they still regarded them with tenderness, and allowed them to hang about wherever they liked, in the naves and belfries, like the mascots and guardians of the place they truly were. "This is not helpful," Enoch said. "Get to the loop entrance part." "I am getting to what I am getting to," Millard snapped. Eventually, after many church towers had come and gone, the pigeons' plans became so ambitious that it took an exceedingly long time to find a human intelligent enough to carry them out. When they finally did, the man resisted, believing the hill to be cursed, so many churches having burned there in the past. Though he tried to put the idea out of his mind, the pigeons kept returning, night after night, to whisper it in his ear. Still the man would not act, so they came to him during the day, which they had never done before, and told him in their strange laughing language that he was the only human capable of constructing their tower, and he simply had to do it. But he refused, and chased them from his house, shouting, "Shoo! Begone with ye, filthy creatures!" The pigeons, insulted and vengeful, hounded the man until he was nearly mad, following him wherever he went, picking at his clothes, pulling his hair, fouling his food with their hind feathers, tapping on his window at night so he couldn't sleep, until one day he fell to his knees and cried, "Oh, pigeons, I will build whatever you ask, so long as you watch over it and preserve it from the fire." The pigeons puzzled over this. Consulting among themselves, they decided that they might have been better guardians of past towers if they hadn't come to enjoy building them so much, and vowed to do everything they could to protect them in the future. So the man built it, a soaring cathedral with 2 towers and a dome. It was so grand, and both the man and the pigeons were so pleased with what they'd made, that they became great friends. The man never went anywhere for the rest of his life without a pigeon close at hand to advise him. Even after he died at a ripe and happy old age, the birds still went to visit him, now and again, in the land below. And to this very day you'll find the cathedral they built standing on the tallest hill in London, the pigeons watching over it. Millard closed the book. The end. Emma made an exasperated noise. Yes, but watching over it from where? That could not have been any less helpful to our present situation, said Enoch. Were it a story about cats on the moon. I can't make heads or tails of it, said Bronwyn. Can anyone? I nearly could. Felt close to something in that line about the land below, but all I could think was, the pigeons are in hell? Then another bomb fell, shaking the whole building, and from high overhead came a sudden flutter of wing beats. We looked up to see 3 frightened pigeons shoot out of some hiding place in the rafters. Miss Peregrine squawked with excitement, as if to say, "That's them!" And Bronwyn scooped her up, and we all went racing after the birds. They flew down the length of the nave, turned sharply, and disappeared through a doorway. We reached the doorway a few seconds later. To my relief, it didn't lead outside, where we'd never have a hope of catching them, but to a stairwell, down a set of spiral steps. Ha! Enoch said, clapping his pudgy hands. They've gone and done it now. Trapped themselves in the basement. We sprinted down the stairs. At the bottom was a large, dimly lit room, walled and floored with stone. It was cold and damp and almost completely dark, the electricity having been knocked out, so Emma sparked a flame in her hand and shone it around until the nature of the space became apparent. Beneath our feet, stretching from wall to wall, were marble slabs chiseled with writing. The one below me read, Bishop Eldridge Thornbrush, died anno 1721. This is no basement, Emma said. It's a crypt. A little chill came over me, and I stepped closer to the light and warmth of Emma's flame. You mean there are people buried in the floor? Said Olive, her voice quavering. What of it? Said Enoch. Let's catch a damn pigeon before one of these bombs buries us in the floor. Emma turned in a circle, throwing light on the walls. They've got to be down here somewhere. There's no way out but that staircase. Then we heard a wing flap. I tensed. Emma brightened her flame and aimed it toward the sound. Her flickering light fell on a flat-topped tomb that rose a few feet from the floor. Between the tomb and the wall was a gap we couldn't see behind from where we stood, a perfect hiding spot for a bird. Emma raised a finger to her lips and motioned for us to follow. We crept across the room. Nearing the tomb, we spread out, surrounding it on 3 sides. Ready? Emma mouthed. The others nodded. I gave a thumbs up. Emma tiptoed forward to peek behind the tomb, and then her face fell. Nothing, she said, kicking the floor in frustration. I don't understand, said Enoch. They were right here. We all came forward to look. Then Millard said, Emma, shine your light on top of the tomb, please. She did, and Millard read the tomb's inscription aloud. Here lieth Sir Christopher Wren, builder of this cathedral. Wren! Emma exclaimed. What an odd coincidence. I hardly think it's a coincidence, said Millard. He must be related to Miss Wren. Perhaps he's her father. That's very interesting, said Enoch. But how does that help us find her or her pigeons? That is what I'm attempting to puzzle out. Millard hummed to himself and paced a little and recited a line from the tale. The birds still went to visit him, now and again, in the land below. Then I thought I heard a pigeon coo. Shh, I said, and made everyone listen. It came again a few seconds later from the rear corner of the tomb. I circled around it and knelt down, and that's when I noticed a small hole in the floor at the tomb's base, no bigger than a fist, just large enough for a bird to wriggle through. Over here, I said. Well, I'll be stuffed, said Emma, holding her flame up to the hole. Perhaps that's the land below. But the hole is so small, said Olive. How are we supposed to get the birds out of there? We could wait for them to leave, said Horace, and then a bomb fell so close by that my eyes blurred and my teeth rattled. No need for that, said Millard. Bronwyn, would you please open Sir Wren's tomb? No, cried Olive. I don't want to see his rotten old bones. Don't worry, love, Bronwyn said. Millard knows what he's doing. She planted her hands on the edge of the tomb lid and began to push, and it slid open with a slow, grating tumble. The smell that came up wasn't what I'd expected, not of death, but mud and old dirt. We gathered around to look inside. Well, I'll be stuffed, Emma said. And that's the end of the chapter. So, cliffhanger. We only have 15 minutes. We're not going to get very far if we continue. So, I'm sorry. I knew some people will be real mad, but I'm pretty sure you can expect what's in there. So, it's not... Come on. You guys can guess. You all are intelligent. You can figure it out. You're fine. You're gonna be fine. You need cat facts now. Facts. Okay. Got it. I got it. Okay. Hold on. We're gonna swap out Peregrines with Cabal here because it's a little smaller. Alright, today's section is gonna be about kittens and when you should have one and when you shouldn't. Because a lot of people get kittens and they aren't prepared for kittens. So, let's do kittens. Everybody loves kittens. They're cute, funny, and cuddly, and there's no doubt about that. But don't make the mistake that they're babies. By the time a kitten is ready to be away from his mother and live in your home, he can walk, run, jump, and climb like the feline equivalent of a 10-year-old child. What's more, if you get a kitten today in just a few short months, you'll have a full-grown cat, a cat who will live an average of 12 to 15 years. If you have the time, environment, and energy to raise a kitten, by all means do it. It's a wonderful experience. Just remember that kittens are high maintenance. They demand a lot of attention. They need routine veterinary care consisting of booster shots, worming, and spaying or neutering. Most kittens start off affectionate and passive, but they need some socialization and training to stay that way. And even still, you won't know what their adult personality will be like until they grow up. Finally, very young children and very young kittens usually don't mix well. It's nice to think that a toddler and a 10-week-old kitten can grow up together, but it really doesn't happen that way. In 6 months, that little ball of fur your child could carry around will have grown into a 10 pounds plus of adult cat, and your 3-year-old will be 3.5 years old. So that's... Pond has input. She does. She's screaming in there. And I was like, oh no, Pond's in a screaming fit. She screamed at the tail end of Peregrines too, and I was like, oh no, Pond's in a screaming mood. Just gonna start screaming. Kittens. So kittens, they require a lot of time. I've had a kitten before, and they're great. But they do want a lot of attention. They need a lot of exercise. And should you bring the Cider Boys raspberry? That's not even a question. Bring it. Bring it. Bring it. I have to go see. I have to go. I have to go out of town tomorrow. So yes, we're living it up tonight. My parents' neighbor found a kitten and brought it to my dad. I There's nothing better than a dad that doesn't like cats getting a kitten. Because they're gonna love it. They just don't know it yet. And that's the perfect thing. It's my favorite. That's one of my favorite things. K Knight. Good night, Lady Eva. Glad to see you here. Thank you as always for keeping the modding situation alive with Swiftwood. Thank you, all my mods. You keep me alive. I appreciate all of you. Well, my mom saw it on a feeling. What? So he just ran up and kidnapped someone's pet? Give it up for the mod squad. Thank you, guys. Diana, Swiftblood, Lady Eva, Ray. Y'all are fantastic. Oh, thank you, Ribbon. Thank you very much. I did not know that. So I appreciate it. Good. That's so awful. Someone just ran up, nabbed a kitten like it was a thing to do. If that cat has a collar, or is in front of a residence, like clearly lives there, don't take the cat. Now, if it's on a side of like a major highway and there's a cat with no collar and it's clearly been out there for a while, rescue the cat. Rescue the cat. But you don't run up and steal people's pets. What the hell? That is wild to me. Oh, man. I have taken in more than one cat that I've just found outside of... There used to be a cat that used to hang out in front of my apartment building back a few years ago when I still lived in an apartment. And, well, many years ago now. It was like 10 years ago. And I would constantly find it out there for like... Yeah, I knew I heard a cat out there for like a couple days. Like I could hear a cat. And like when I finally saw it, it didn't look like it had a collar. So I was like, I'm gonna get this cat. And I got some cat food. I put it directly outside my door. And I opened my front door and put it like just right inside the doorway and kept moving it closer until the cat just walked into my apartment. And then I shut the door. And then I just had a cat. And that's how I got my cat in college. And I named him Sir Reginald. He wore a bow tie, and I trained him to go to the bathroom in the toilet like a gentleman. And everybody thought it was super wild. They would come over, and there's just like this very dignified cat. I remember one time my friend went to go like use the bathroom, and he opened the door, and he was like, "Your cat's shitting in the toilet." And I was like, "Yes, he does do that. I'm also trying to train him to flush it." And he was like, "You can only really do that if you're the only one living there and you have the patience to train a cat to use the toilet." But his name was Sir Reginald, and he could go to the go to the bathroom. Pond is right outside the door in a very screamy mood, and I know if I call her, she's not going to come in here. Pond. She just chooses when she wants to respond to that. She knows I'm calling her. It's just sometimes she's like, no, I'm going to scream in this hallway. Sometimes she screams because she doesn't know where everybody is, and she's like, I'm alone and I don't know where I'm at. And if you call her, she'll come in there and be like, oh, I found the people. Time for me to find a place to nap. And then other times she's just like, I would like treats. And I'm going to scream in this hallway until someone gives me treats. And I've started to tell the difference between the screams. Because she hasn't been doing the I'm a lost cat in the building for her entire life. That's only just recently started. Where she started screaming because she's 14 years old. She's an old maid now. So it's like she's getting cat dementia, and she's like, I have forgotten the layout of the house. Can someone please direct me to the nearest living human so they can assist me in some way? And so then you call her and she'll come, and then other times she's like, food now, please. And I'm like, okay, I'll help you if you're lost. You don't just get treats by screaming. I don't know how to tell you that doesn't happen. I'll give you treats, but not just because you're screaming. Food now, servant. It is very much like that. I'm like, you can't just scream in the hallway and get catnip. Like, that's not... Also, you don't get catnip on Tuesdays. You don't get catnip on Tuesdays because then the live would not happen if we gave Pond catnip on Tuesdays. Yeah, less likely to get a snack if you shout about it. So, I don't know how to tell you that doesn't work with me. I started at night whenever she was yelling for pate. Like when I got home, she'd just immediately start screaming for food. So I just clawed her face, like, and just held her face kind of gently, and then let go. And then now it's become a game where sometimes she'll scream at me and then shove her face in my hand, like we're playing a game. She's like, I know this game. If I scream, you put your hand on my face. So that's a whole other thing that started happening. And I'm like, I don't know how I trained you to just shove your whole face in my hand. She normally doesn't like her face touched. But it's specifically at night she'll do that. And I'm like, I didn't mean to train you to do that. That was an accident. The life could still happen. It would just be Pond's chaos. Yeah. The live would maybe still happen. It would just be Pond screaming and zooming around the house. I'd just film my cat for you. Follow my cat around while she loses her ever-loving mind. And then gets real tired about it and lays down and falls asleep for 6 hours. Quality content. Who doesn't want to watch my cat? I choose to believe that the entire world loves my cat. They just don't maybe know about it yet. I love my cat. Everybody should love my cat. Look at my cat. Look at my cat. Look at my cat. My cat's adorable. She's 14. She doesn't look a day over 8. No. She's a good girl. She does scream a lot, though. She has a screaming problem. I don't know how to get her to stop screaming at night. The main problem is that I feed her when I get home from work, and Dave's asleep. And she does not care. And I'm like, you're gonna get us both in trouble. And she just screams her head off. She didn't care because no matter how annoyed Dave is, she's not gonna understand or care. I'm gonna have to deal with it. Half the time he like he's like, did you not feed her? And I'm like, no, she's being a brat. Look at her. I fed her. She's just being a brat about it. I don't know how to explain this any better than that, but that's all that I know that's happening right now. I fed her food. She's cue the dog. Oh man, are you walking in here? Are we moving to Discord? All right. I'll see you guys in Discord. And next week we'll be back. This happens every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central. And it's going to continue to stay that way until the foreseeable future. So, yeah, if you're backed up, all the content is on YouTube now. So if you missed a little bit and you want to go back and check, all of it should be updated. I need to start singing Sleepy Time Junction to my cat, is what I'm hearing. So I actually like that idea. I'm going to start singing to my cat before I go to bed. Okay. Maybe I can train her to do that. That'd be great. But I will see you guys next week at 8 for the chaos. And now we're going to adjourn into Discord, where I'm going to die repeatedly at a video game while hanging out with my dad. And I hope you all can make it. Please do that in VC. Okay.